guys, welcome back to the very last episode of season 2. So today we have a guest on the podcast again, and we kind of wanted to have this guest on because it comes really full circle with just the podcast this whole year. So like, just to give you a little visual, we started off in January being like, okay, like we have this like podcast, it's kind of random, we just like talk into microphones like in my literal closet. Like we would sit in my closet, I don't even know how big it is, like it's
not big
small.
at all. It's like the size of this table.
Yeah, and we would sit there like this just so that like the sound would sound better, and like it was in an enclosed space, and we would just like talk on the microphones.
We also bought what's it called? Oh my god, what are those sound things called?
What?
From Amazon, those sound things to block out the sound.
Oh yeah,
like paper kind of.
Yeah.
And we'd put them around like our little microphones. And then also another setup was Sam would sit on one side of her bed, and then I'd be on like the other side of her bed on like pillows, and it'd be on my mattress with like no bed frame.
Yeah, like anyways,
and
point is
sketchy.
We started off the year recording like that, and then throughout the year we're like, hey, we made a conscious decision. We're like, hey, we're actually gonna try with this podcast. We're gonna try and level this up. And then somehow we discovered a studio, and we're like, cool, we get to record in the studio now.
Yeah.
And because of that, we're like, hey, let's have the person who's kind of been working the cameras behind the studio and the rest of his team kind of helping us with the audio, and his co-owner of the studio, they're all like helping us and making this podcast like come to life and actually what we envisioned it to be, us sitting like in front of 2 microphones, which is sick. So we're like, okay, let's have him on the podcast. So today we have Ricky Bobby on the podcast.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's a man behind the cameras that we're always like making side comments to.
Yeah, I'm very used to being behind the camera, so being in front of the camera is something like new to me. So
very
I might
different.
be a little nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
He'll warm up quickly. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. He's always like standing behind the camera, and like when I'm like saying things, I'm like kind of embarrassed to say. I like look at the corner of my eye, and he's laughing.
I know, I always do that.
So
I always say something. I look at him, and he's like laughing. My kid's good. It's fine. He's laughing.
Mm-hmm.
We're good.
yeah, and sometimes for me too, it's hard not to like jump in conversations because the conversation you guys have is very like engaging. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
sometimes I
You have
wanna,
comments to say.
Yeah, and just jump in, but
Yeah, no, I feel you. Okay, so go.
Should we see weekly updates or no?
Yeah,
You don't have any weekly updates, right? You can just listen to mine then. It's fine.
not really.
Okay.
Just running the studio and stuff like that takes
Yeah.
up the majority of my time.
Yeah,
so.
true. Do you have any like things to say?
Just people at Walmart.
What?
Do you guys ever? Do you ever go to Walmart?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, do you?
Do you ever go to? Yes, I go to Walmart. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Some people don't.
Okay.
Do you ever realize there's
That's like probably my favorite place to shop.
Same. I
actually.
fucking love Walmart.
really?
Yeah.
I honestly never really go there that often, but I've been like recently I've been going. And do you ever realize that every time you go to Walmart, there's someone starting a problem? Like there's always a problem at Walmart, or is it
Yeah.
just fucking me?
Yeah.
Like last time I went, this lady was getting mad at the cashier, like the girl at the cash register, because she wasn't checking her out fast enough. And then the lady was like, you know that there's self-checkout, right? And then
Yeah, because people at Walmart don't. They have like no. Like they don't care.
yeah,
They actually
like what
don't
the
care.
fuck?
It's just the way it is at Walmart. Have you ever seen those TikToks and like YouTube videos where it's like the worst
People at Walmart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Then the
always find it.
second time I went in like the span of the same month, you know those like jingly guys who like
Yeah.
with the jingles and you like give them
The
money.
greeter?
Yeah, those people. A fucking old man was getting mad at him.
Why?
He's like, you
So
just sit
loud?
here and jingle the jingle. I know you expect people to give you money, like this foreign man. And I was like, oh my god, I can't with people at Walmart. Like, why does this always happen?
Yeah, they don't
Anyways,
care.
those are my.
I went to
Thoughts?
Niagara for my last hurrah before like Dougie closes everything down again, and I went to the casino. I have like an obsessed with the casino. It's really bad, but I went to the casino,
The
and
casino in Niagara sucks though.
I know, but where else am I gonna go? Like
Where's the
Woodbine?
best casino you've
Is
ever
Woodbine
been to?
better?
Well, Vegas, obviously.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
obviously.
Well, unfortunately, I couldn't.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
actually, I've been to the Vegas casino. I just didn't know what to do with all
Well,
those.
for me, it kind of ruined it because my boss took me to Vegas, and that was like the first time I've been to a casino. So then when I went to like Casino Niagara, I thought it would be like
Oh, it's
that.
totally
I thought they'd give
different.
you like free drinks and you could like smoke cigars in there, and it was just totally like
Yeah, it is very different.
it was a lot more like depressing. It was like people like
Yeah.
just losing their life savings kind of vibe.
in Niagara.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's Fran.
That was literally
That's
me.
Fran
It was like-
losing her fucking savings.
So I'm like, I'm gonna budget myself to like $100, whatever. Like if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. But I went in there thinking I was gonna win. That's like the wrong thing to do because like it's a fucking casino. You can lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's win or lose. But like, nah, I'm gonna win. So I played stupid penny slots and obviously lost my $20. Played digital roulette, lost my $20. So I had like $60 left. So I'm like, maybe I'll try tables, like roulette. I've never ever tried tables in my life. I don't know how poker chips work. Like I had no fucking clue like what I was doing.
Yeah, so I don't gamble. So when I was in Vegas, the only thing I played like card wise was like War, and it's just like who gets the highest card.
War?
It's like a card. It's a legit card game.
And you just win money from that.
It's literally like you draw one card, and it's you versus the dealer, and whoever has the highest card wins.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you have like no control over the game like whatsoever.
And it's like so fast because it's like minimum like $20 hands.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it just like you're up or down like so quickly.
Yeah.
I'm so
But
cheap,
then I started
never gamble.
playing roulette because
I
I
love
just
roulette.
felt like I don't trust like the cards. I'm like, yo, they could be doing anything, but like roulette, I felt like, oh, how are they gonna cheat?
No,
You know?
yeah, there's like a spinner, right?
Yeah.
Like lands on the thing, yeah. And I was a funny story I told Sam. It's kind of weird, but I was like, there was like obviously there's numbers and like you bet on number and you bet on like color, right? You
Color.
can bet inside, outside. So I bet outside red.
I always bet the first, what is it, the first 12, second
Yeah,
12,
yeah,
third
yeah.
12,
Yeah.
because I find your odds like,
Are better.
yeah, you can like lose 3 times and then win once, and you get like all your
Double,
money
yeah,
back.
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm just like
That's what I
there
was-
for a longer.
That's what I
period
was
of time.
doing, but I was losing so much money that I'm like, I'm just gonna do it one more time, then I'm done. And I don't know why Sam's face popped into my head like while I was gambling, and I'm like, I'm gonna put this my last 100 chip on 30. So I put on 30, and 30 is Sam's birthday, and I won like $300. And I was like, thanks, Sam, and then I lost it all after. So that was my weekly update. I lost money at the casino. So after our finance podcast that we did
Yeah,
about
like
saving money, I went to the casino and spent my money. But anyways,
ironic.
all right,
Anyways, so
enough about that.
like we said, we have Ricky Bobby on the podcast today, but we don't call him that. We actually call him Ryan. So we want to know
Yeah, that's my real name.
how the name Ricky Bobby came about.
Yeah, so everyone calls me Ricky, but it's like Ricky Bobby
Or
for
Ricky,
long
yeah,
form.
okay.
I got the name. Well, first of all, no one has ever called me by my real name like my whole life. I've always like had nicknames like growing up, and like
Yeah.
I always like really ran with the nicknames. Like they really stuck. So like no one knew my name. So like growing up, first they called me like apprentice because I hanged around with like a lot of older like people. Was always like taking everything in, and then
Apprentice.
yeah, that was like
That's good
everyone.
jokes.
And I tell people like that's my real name. They'd be like, "No way, your parents named you that." And I'd be like, "Yeah, they did," and
Apprentice.
people would believe it. And I'd just be like, "Wow, like you're so stupid to think my parents actually named
Yeah.
me that." But so many people believed it. Then I started interning at Universal, and my first mentor gave me the name Ricky Bobby. And I kind of feel like, you know, nicknames have to be like given to you. Like you
Yeah.
can't just like
Yeah.
pick like
You can't be like,
your
"Hey,
name,
this is my
like, yo,
nickname."
call me this. Like I
Yeah.
think that's so weird.
I've tried doing that.
So I used to have like a fade, you know, like and my boss said I looked like Bobby Hill from like King of the Hill.
I don't know who
Okay,
it is.
the guy
It's
with
like
the
a-
glasses.
The like short, fat, like chubby kid.
No, I
Anyways,
don't know.
everyone else
Okay.
will know who Bobby Hill
Okay.
is.
Maybe we're
probably.
too young.
I don't, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
Maybe we're
yeah,
too
it's
young.
probably too
Yeah, I
young.
don't know. So
So they said I looked like Bobby Hill, and then so my boss is like, "Yo, like I'm gonna call you Bobby," and I'm like, "That's my brother's name, like, my
Oh.
real
Don't call me
brother."
that,
So
yeah.
it's
Oh, I
kind of
didn't
like
know that.
weird,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Yeah. And then he has 2 friends actually. They're both called Ryan. So he's like, "Yo, I can't call you Ryan because it's already like I have 2 friends named Ryan. It's gonna be confusing."
Sorry,
you
take
know?
it.
Yeah. So one of
Sorry.
their to differentiate his 2 friends, he would call one of them Ricky,
Mhm.
and the other one was Ryan, but they're both were named Ryans.
Yeah.
Right? So he's just like Ricky Bobby.
You put them together and he's
yeah,
like-
and I'm like, yo, like shake and bake, like, and if you're not first, you're last, like all these quotes from the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I just like ran with that name in the music industry, and everyone I got introduced to, he introduced me to a lot of people, to be honest.
Mhm.
So he'd be like, yo, this is my assistant, Ricky Bobby. And then I just like
Stuck
stuck with the name. And then I liked using the name though, because it got to the point where I was meeting so many people, and like I smoked weed daily, that like I had people coming up to me that would be like, yo, what's going on? And I don't know who these people are. So if they were like, yo, what's up, apprentice? I knew they knew me from like
Yeah.
You can like categorize where people know you from.
Yeah.
By the name they would call me, right?
Yeah.
If they're like, yo, what's up, Ricky Bobby? I'd be like, okay, this person met me in the music industry.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's just kind of like a stage name and stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like you got to be like, you can actually like manifest things, because as I got older, like I got super into like cars, like drifting cars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So now the name kind of just like
sticks.
Works.
Yeah. It makes sense. That's interesting.
But it started off as more of like a joke, but it just
I've never
ran with it. I don't take myself like very seriously.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I've never heard a story like that for like how someone
For
got
a
a
nickname. Yeah.
I wish.
Let's get into like, I guess we kind of know a backstory, but like for everyone listening, like how you started in the music industry and like your first steps into being like a producer that you are.
I just wanna preface that by like me and Fran like we're very, I don't want to say starstruck, but like we have no glimpse or like knowledge about anything music industry related.
Like ignorant to it.
Kind of. Like we so ignorant to it. So when we like came here and we started like recording in the studio, first of all, all of this, we're like, whoa, like how do you do this? Like, this is crazy. And then when he told us that he was a producer and he is a producer and he worked at Universal and then Much Music, I think, or opposite. Yeah. That order, right?
Much Music first.
Much Music and then Universal, and then he has
managed
this
Jazz Cartier.
up on the wall. Me and Fran were like,
me and my friend
left the first time. We're like, what the fuck? Who are we working with? Who is this? And we're like, oh my god, we have no.
So I was like, oh my god, what if we see Jazz Cartier in the studio? Or like you talked about how you like who come like Belly or someone. Was it Belly?
Belly.
I can't necessarily say.
Oh yes, okay. Sorry,
on
my
the
bad.
show, but like.
Okay, yeah. Anyways, he was mentioning rappers that he's worked with, and like we're like, holy shit, like damn.
Yeah. Anyways, point is, we were very like in awe, but in all seriousness, we kind of want to know, especially for people listening who would be interested in this sort of thing, like how did you get from like point A to point? Yeah, like even before like you started at Much. Yeah. How were you interested in all this?
For sure. So, where to start with it all? So I guess to start with it all, I've always kind of been interested in like music. Like during school, during elementary school, I remember like in grade 7, I got like my first MP3 player. And like back then there was like Napster. So like I downloaded a bunch of music, would just like stick to myself at recess, like listen to my headphones, not be very social. When I got into high school, I really wanted to like be in a band and stuff and like just like be involved with music. Actually, my good friend Mills was in a band and he
oh
like,
nice.
Yeah, so everyone all my friends I was kind of surrounded with were like musicians and stuff that I just naturally like grew up with in the neighborhood and stuff like that. So I tried to play like every instrument and never stuck with any of them. Like I tried to play guitar and then after 2 months I gave up on guitar and then got a bass and then I sold my bass and bought drums and then I sold my drums to actually Mills and then bought a keyboard and then tried to play the keyboard because I was like, oh, I can play like every instrument with this. Then I didn't stick with anything and music didn't really become my passion anymore. I kind of got super into like snowboarding and was doing that like very like that was like my hobby. And then I took a year off high school because I didn't know what I was gonna like do. I hated school as well, so I was just like, yo, I don't have to go to school. I'm not gonna go for a year.
Yeah.
Then like my parents were on my ass. They're like, yo, you're not gonna just sit around and not go to college or anything. So I was like, okay, like I want to go to London to like Fanshawe University because they had like a music production program. And they're like, no, like you're not moving out of town to go to school. Like we don't have money for that.
Yeah.
And actually I didn't apply for a student loan because both my parents were like doing okay. So I couldn't get a student loan to go away. So they're like, look, just like find something you want to do like locally. I had no clue what I wanted to do. I ended up going to George Brown for like marketing administration,
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
just to kind of like get my parents like off my ass.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
do
Okay,
something.
do
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And I thought marketing was cool because like I was always really, really good with numbers
Mm-hmm.
and really like terrible at like English and words, you know? And I
Yeah.
always excelled at math because I was like, there's only one right answer you can get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You know?
that's
So
true.
if you get the right
Theory.
answer, you're getting 100%.
That's so true.
Like
yeah.
English
very
is
true.
so up for interpretation.
It's very
Yeah,
ambiguous.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to college for marketing. I had no idea what I was going to do. And what happened was I had a friend who was making beats at the time. And
Okay.
he was doing music production. And what actually happened was someone stole his beats and played them for 50 Cent. And then 50 Cent wanted one of his beats. And they didn't have to beat the beat. So they were like, yo, like, this is the kid that made the beat, right? And he ended up getting a placement with like G Unit and stuff.
Oh shit.
And
Okay.
this was at the same time that Twitter first came out too. So he figured out a system on Twitter where his account could like target anyone that had like production or artist or whatever in their bio.
Mm-hmm.
It would automatically follow them and send them a DM and be like, hey, I'm a music producer from Toronto. Like, check out my beats. And then if they didn't follow back within 48 hours, it like
I'm sorry.
automatically,
He figured out the system.
yeah,
The hell?
Holy
it would
fuck.
automatically like unfollow them. So he kind of made this like app just
Damn.
sitting in his basement. Yeah, his name was Jay Staffs. Shout out to Jay Staffs. So he was like, I was super interested in what he was doing. Actually, my friend Mills introduced me to him as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so what ended up happening was I had to get an internship for school, right? So
Okay.
I had to apply for like all these jobs, right? And I applied like for like 50, 60 different internships. I ended up getting an interview at Much Music, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was,
That's sick.
yeah, I had like an interview at Much Music, interview at like Xerox to do like marketing for like fax machines. Like there's so many random things, right?
Okay.
So I went to the Much Music interview, and because my friend was doing all the production stuff, I was like, yo, can I like lie a bit and say I'm like your manager?
Yeah.
Because that would look like super
Really
good
good,
on my
yeah.
resume, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, of course, like go for it, no problem. So I said, when I went to the interview, I'm like, yeah, like I manage this producer, and like he just made this song for 50 Cent, and they're like, whoa, like what the hell, you know? So it kind of gave me like a
one-up.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I really stood out compared to all the other college students because they were just talking about like
Their love for
school
whatever.
stuff
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So basically, I got a call back, and they were like, "Yeah, like we went through 150 candidates for the job, and like we want to use you."
Oh,
And I
damn.
was like, "Oh my god, like amazing!" So I started interning there, and then I was interning in the marketing department. Back then, there was this show called like Much on Demand.
Oh, I remember
Like, I've
Much
heard
on
of that.
Demand.
Bring in like an
Yeah.
artist. So
Yeah, I
I was
remember that.
always I was in the same building, right? Like my office was upstairs, and I was interning in marketing, and right, social media was new at the time. Like Twitter was out, Facebook was out. There was no Instagram yet though.
Right.
And the girl I was interning for was like super into social media. So she was like saying like, yo, like there's going to be all these jobs created where people are just going to be on the internet all day, like tweeting, and you're going to get paid for it. And I was like, yeah, right. Like who's going to pay someone to like tweet? And now
Manage,
there's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
so many jobs like that. Right. So, yeah, so basically what happened was I started interning at Much Music, and then Jay Staffs, who I asked him if I could kind of like fake it till you make it thing and say I'm his manager.
Right.
He's like, yo, I want you to actually manage me because you're like so close to all these artists.
Yeah.
Right. So I made like little business cards and stuff, put my email on them, and then every day I'd be at the Much on Demand show. The artist would come on with their manager, and I'd like be waiting in the hallway for them.
And you
And
give them
then-
your card.
Yeah,
Smart,
and then I'd
yeah.
give them my card, and then I'd be like, yeah, like I manage a producer if you need beats or anything. the people at Much Music saw me doing that, and then one of the higher up guys actually got mad at it because he was like, yo, like the artist green room, that's like their oasis.
Yeah, their
like,
sanctuary.
They don't want to be
Yeah.
bothered. And you're like the intern here, like
Bothering
knocking
them.
on the door, like giving out your business cards, you know? So
Yeah.
he was kind of like, yo, like, you know, don't stop what you're doing, but just like, you know, be more mindful of it. And I was like, okay, cool. I went back to school. Much Music actually asked me to come back for another semester of interning because
Nice,
like
okay.
they liked me so much, and I was like really close. I had like a great team I interned for there.
Yeah.
So I went back, did another semester of interning, was still doing the same thing with the business cards, trying to meet new people to sell the beats. And beat sales back then, he really figured out how to sell beats on the internet. But the thing is like, he was doing really, really well for himself. He was probably bringing in $20,000 a month. So I was getting like $2-3 grand just managing him. But the thing it was all just like random kids in the middle of nowhere that like their parents would buy them the beats.
Yeah.
Like the songs really never went anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I was just trying to make connections with real artists.
Yeah.
So
for you is more about like making the connections with people in the industry rather than like making money, or both.
Both.
Okay.
Both, yeah.
Got you. Okay.
It's like a balance of both.
Got you. Okay.
I always have that talk with producers I start to manage too. It's like, where are your boundaries?
Yeah.
You know, do you want to make money and like we can pump out beats all day, but they might not be like the biggest artist on them?
Yeah.
Or do you want to focus
Quality,
on
quality
yeah.
content.
Yeah, because to me, honestly, neither is wrong, because I've watched people sell beats to nobody and they make 20 to 50,000 a month doing it. Where
just
but
depends
that's
what you
kind of
want.
like the short way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The other way, it's like, you know, it might take 5-10 years before you get that song, before you even make a single dollar.
But then you're really rich, really.
But yeah, if you're getting royalties and it's like a number one, it goes gold or platinum, you know, you could be getting like
a lot more,
like $500,000 check, you know? So yeah, so anyways, they seen what I was doing at Much Music, right? And it came time I had to do a third semester of interning, and I was like, can I do it with you guys again? And they're like, you should go to a record label. They're like, what you're trying to do here, like, you would fit in, like, this is what record labels do.
Right.
Like, so, like, you're so interested in that lane. We have contacts at labels. So we'll give you all the contacts for labels, and we'll put in a recommendation for you for your next internship instead of doing
that's
it
nice
here.
of them.
Yeah, so they did that for me. When it came time for me to do my third semester of interning, they set up an interview for me. I'd sent out resumes, and I ended up getting an interview at Universal Music, E1 Music, and Warner Music, which are like the three like
main
major
ones,
labels in Canada here. Sony as well, but so I went to all the interviews, and you know, I was like, I intern at Much Music in the marketing department, was talking about like all the social media stuff, and then was talking about managing J-Stavs, the producer, right? So I got every single job offer. All three companies like offered me positions to intern for them, and I really had to think about what one to go with. But when I went to Universal, I interned for Ivan Evidente, Big Ives. Shout out to Big Ives. He was really like my first mentor, and right away I knew I wanted to work for him, because I went to the other like 2 interviews and it was like kind of like whatever, right? Like very like corporate structure, right? I remember going to this interview and like chugging a Red Bull before it and actually like taking a shot of Hennessy because I was so like nervous, like courage, you know? And then when the interview, like how it started was, this guy has like the nice desk, like all the gold plaques and stuff, and that was my goal. Like when I got in the industry, I'm like, I want one of those plaques. Like, I don't care what it takes. Like, I didn't care about the money. I'm just like, I think it would be so cool to have a plaque to like put on the wall. So during the interview, like, this guy, basically the first thing he does is like he kicks up his feet like on the desk like this, and he's like wearing like Jordan kicks, right? And he's like, so why the fuck do you want to work for me?
Oh my god.
He's like, because I'm a real fucking G. So like, what's like, you know, why do you think you deserve to work for me? And I was just like, yo, like, this guy's bossed up.
I would have been shaking my boots. I would have been like,
that would make me more nervous.
I was nervous as hell. And then I ended up
did you black out and just
like, no, I don't even remember what I said anymore, but I know I gave him some kind of like generic answer, and I was just kind of like caught off guard by the whole thing, and I didn't know how the interview went, to be honest.
Yeah.
But then my school called me back, and they're like, yo, every interview you went for is offering you the internship, so you got to decide which
what you
one.
want.
Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going with Big Ives for sure.
Yeah.
Right? Because just the way he like carried himself, you know. And then so I started interning in the marketing department at Universal, and it was called lifestyle marketing. So back then, a lot of the marketing was more like grassroots, because there was no like internet like that yet.
Yeah.
Right? It was like YouTube was just
So
like,
there was no digital
like
marketing.
4 videos on YouTube. Like, you know, like no one
posted on YouTube.
there was no Instagram yet, right?
Yeah.
So music was all promoted like in the streets.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So this was the department that like ran the street team and would like deal with like
organic marketing,
exactly, like grassroots kind of marketing,
Yeah.
right? But what was really cool about it too is they did the marketing for all the international artists, and because it was like grassroots street stuff, it actually was kind of like the urban marketing, they call it. So like a lot of the rappers and stuff in the US, like when they would come to Canada, like our department would like actively set, like back then blogs were starting to take off, and blogs were like a big thing.
Yeah.
So we would like set up interviews for the artists that came down. So like that to me was like super cool, because I got to meet all of like my idols, like people I listened to their music my entire life, grew up on, you know. I was like setting up the interviews and then get to take them like to each interview, place to place. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say I don't want to interrupt your story, but so like, who of those idols did you get to interview or set up interviews with? Like, who were
a lot of people.
Okay, name your like top 3.
Well, I could name more than 3. Probably.
Okay, name your top 5.
Like Young Jeezy.
Okay.
Juicy J. Nas. Wiz Khalifa.
Wiz Khalifa. That's sick.
But he wasn't like as big back then. But one that was super like close to me, Mac Miller, because he actually passed away.
Damn.
And like he gave me like a box of like rolling papers.
He personally gave it to you?
Yeah. And like
that's crazy.
Like still have like some of those papers like at my mom's house. So
that's
it's
nuts.
Kinda, like a sentimental thing. But yeah, I got to meet a lot of people. And the major thing at that job is like I was super excited to meet the people, but I couldn't let anyone know that.
Yeah.
Because they actually had a term for that, like it was called like being green, right? And they're like, yo, like this guy's green, like he's too excited, and they didn't want people like
you
that
can be like
around.
a fanboy. Like
yeah. But then like that's what I talk about with my boss, like too. It's like the balance, because the reason we got in this industry is because we're all fans.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know. So I thought it was like kind of. It's just like you learn there's a time and a place.
Yeah, you need to contain it. You can't like see someone walk in and be like, oh my fucking god, it's Wiz Khalifa.
If you're starstruck, you're not gonna go like anywhere.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was I was interning there doing the marketing stuff. At the same time, one of my best friends I knew from like the age of 4 years old, Mills, he actually opened up his first like studio, and this is like 10 years ago, right? And this is, I'm saying this because he comes back into the picture later on in life. So he opened up his first like studio and stuff. He was like grinding, making beats and stuff like that. I was starting to work. I was interning at Universal Marketing. What happened was I actually ended up, after interning there for 2 years, I ended up being an intern for 2 years. Like I dropped out of school
To be an intern there?
to be an intern.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they kind of finessed it because they're not supposed to like do that. But Ivan found a way to like bring me on, and then also like he would just kind of like take care of me on the side because he knew like I wasn't getting any money, but he's like a really good guy, so he'd like help.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
break me off a little something here and there.
Right.
And then what I was doing as an intern was I was actually selling drugs to support myself. But because I was doing that, all the artists loved me. Like the big artists.
Yeah.
So they would come to the city and they'd be like, yo, where's Ricky Bobby? Where's Ricky Bobby? And like they'd have my personal phone number and they would call me, and I'd like go to their hotel room like the night they land, or pick them up from the airport, or like whatever.
So they'd always want you when they came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the CEO found that out. He's like, why the fuck is the intern always with the artist before
actually
we are?
funny.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's like, this makes no sense. Like, this guy's at the dinner with the artist.
And we're just chilling here.
And we're
He's
not
like, what
here,
the fuck is
right?
going on here?
So, Eyes was just kind of like, yo, like, because the people really like him, you know? Like, he didn't tell him what I was, like, doing. I
Right.
don't even think he knew. Eyes knew, he's going to find out now, but
Yeah.
I don't think he even knew that that's what I was, like, doing. But I feel like that had a big part of why the artists were always asking for me, like, right away.
Right.
So they seen that. They seen, you know, I was like really like hustling and really driven, and my friend was starting to rap, who is Jazz, and he was just starting to rap, and we were just
That
homies.
Jazz.
Yeah, that Jazz.
Okay.
So we were just homies, right? And I was like, yo, like I'm interning at Universal, like I'm gonna bring you in, I'm gonna get you a record deal, you know? And he was just kind of like, yeah, okay, like, you know, like I'm down for it, like we'll see what happens. Kind of like, I don't know if he really believed me at the time, but then I think he knew it was real when one day I told him to come help me with the street team stuff, and we had to like go put up posters in an event or something, right? So I'm like, yo, come to the office, I'll like introduce you to some people, you know? So he took the bus out to the office, came to the office, introduced him to some people, and then I think once he like seen it, that's when he was like,
it's real.
okay,
Yeah.
this is like real. Like he's actually in the record label like every day.
Yeah.
You know?
He's in the day to day.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was they closed down that marketing department, and they got rid of the entire lifestyle marketing department because the stuff with the streets was kind of dead and everything was moving online, right?
Digital, yeah.
Yeah, so people were trying to catch up and learn to adapt. Okay. No, the card's almost full.
Should I press okay?
Yeah, it's still recording. It's still recording.
But don't press okay?
Yeah, just press okay, yeah. So yeah, and then yeah, so what ended up happening was I had this friend Jazz. He was like an amazing, I knew he was really talented at rapping. The marketing department closed, and then I got my first job offer because Ivan, who was the head of marketing, he got promoted to the director of A&R.
Okay.
And A&R at the record label is the department that actually signs the talent. Their job is to scout the talent, sign the talent, and then actually work with them to like create the album.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
So they're
To
kinda
build them
like
up,
the
yeah.
hands-on. So, and that's like a dream job because that's kind of like what everyone wants to do, but when no one knows like how to get into it. Right. So I got my first job offer as an A&R assistant. Obviously I took it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going back to college. Like I never finished the marketing program or whatever.
Okay.
I started, as an A&R assistant in the A&R department. And then they were like signing a bunch of new artists and stuff. And I was like, yo, like, you guys got to sign my boy Jazz. Like, he's sick, you know? So I played his music for Ivan. He was like a big fan of it. And then, he decided to sign him. And not only that, he also wanted to manage him as well because he believed in him so much.
Mm-hmm.
So us three, me, him, and then actually the director of marketing at Universal, JP, we started a management company together.
Mm-hmm.
And then got Jazz a deal, basically. Started managing Jazz. And then, from there, I did that for like a couple years. Everything was like really great. Like, I learned a lot of stuff, got to like travel a lot, got to go on tour, like experience the tour life.
That's sick.
Yeah, we won a Juno. His record went gold. We were doing like big shows and stuff. So it was kind of like I was like living like a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened was it just got to a time where there was no hurt feelings between anyone, but we weren't agreeing on everything like completely.
Mm-hmm.
When it came time to like kind of like we had done everything we could do in Canada, like performed at the Much Music Video Awards, like, you know, there was kind of like nothing left here to really do, and we needed to like really make that jump in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, like, just long story short, that's when a lot of politics got involved. Like, I didn't necessarily agree with everything. Everyone wasn't on the same page with the way he should go or whatever. So we just decided to split ways.
Got it.
But it was always
amicable.
Better that you never like burn a bridge.
Right.
Yeah. And one thing Ivan really taught me too, like Ivan taught me so many things that I still carry with me, like to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he really taught me, like, you have to really nurture your relationships, you know? Like, you have to treat people almost like plants and like remember to like water them all the time.
Yeah,
you know? Because if you just like hit people up and like ask them for favors and stuff all the time, they're just
very true.
They'll see right through.
They're gonna recognize
that,
right.
Yeah.
So like you
treat people like plants. I like that.
Like, and really nurture your relationships, you know? And like,
no, that makes sense.
Make people like think you care about them.
Yeah.
You know? Like, if you're just hitting someone like, yo, can I get in the studio? Can I get in the studio? And they're like, yeah, whatever, you know? But if it's someone like I actually like, yo, how are you doing? Yo, you want to go grab a coffee or whatever?
Yeah,
shoot the shit. And then they ask me to get in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be more inclined to like clear out the schedule for them.
Yeah,
exactly. Rather than just somebody, you know, who like wants to kind of use almost, right?
Yeah. So he taught me that. Like, he taught me like there's always someone out there that's working harder to be in your spot, right? So that's kind of where I got a lot of like my hustle from. And then one saying he always taught me too was like, cream always rises to the top. So like, even if you're not getting like recognition for like what you're doing, like eventually like it's going to rise to the top, and the people not doing anything are going to kind of
go to the bottom,
sink below. Yeah.
That's some good advice.
So that actually is very good life advice.
Yeah, that really is.
Yeah. That one of the favorite things he taught me too, he's like, yo, there's a difference between, we had like this saying, and he was like, there's a difference between mild boys and wild boys. And he's like, and no one likes a mild boy, because like, you know, especially in the music industry, like you're not going to stick out or like stand out to people if you're just kind of like
chilling.
Like, yeah.
So we were like, you know, when we'd go out, it would get like wild.
Rowdy.
Wild boys, like popping bottles, like getting on jets, like going to the airport.
But isn't that like kind of like the lifestyle stuff, right? Too? Like in music, like you're kind of just extra like all the time. I feel like no one's gonna be attracted to you if you're like you said, like just kind of like in your scene, just kind of like chilling. Like
that's what everyone is like chasing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So, it's like a lifestyle kind of. Yeah, no, I get that. That's like super interesting. I
want to fast forward to ask about this studio, so the Cookhouse Recording Studio.
Yeah.
So this is something that you guys.
I'm like 3/4 through my story.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I want to like make sure we touch on that because that's something that like you guys created together, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that's what you do now, and that's where your focus is now.
Yeah,
So
on the studio.
I want to ask, like, nowadays, how is it hard to like manage your guys as artists and manage the studio as a producer, but also now you guys are business owners too, right?
Right.
So how do you balance the two of them? How do you still balance being able to have like a passion for that, but also now deal with like the business side of
Like
things?
making it like your career, like
Because at Universal,
Okay.
you're not the owner of Universal. You know, you're not managing that business aspect. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, for sure. Well, for me, it was like super easy because like I always felt like I wasn't that great at music and I wasn't that talented at music. And I always knew so many people that were like better than me. Like I wasn't going to be a rapper, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I had like 10 friends that could rap, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I tried to play the drums, but I had 5 friends that could play drums better than me.
Yeah.
You know? Like even guitar, like same thing, making beats, like, you know, I'm like I know so many producers. But what I really knew was like the business. And that's what I found artists had no clue about.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, I should just learn the business because then I can help my friends get to what they want to be.
yeah.
And I can be the best at that. Whereas
Yeah.
I didn't think I could be the best guitar player, or I didn't think I could be the best drummer. You know?
Yeah.
But I thought like, if I know what my friends don't, I can help them get into places and rooms they've always wanted to like be in.
Yeah.
Right?
You're like their guide.
You
like,
know
for
what?
guidance.
That's actually a really nice story because it's like you really liked something, you had a passion for something, and like you didn't give up on it just because you weren't like quote unquote good at music. Like you're still in music,
Yeah.
not legit playing it, but you're still in the industry, you know? So it's actually an inspiring story because he's still being of service to other
Not only
people by
that,
doing what he's
you
doing.
kind of like turned into like your mentor, kind of like for other people. That like you're
Yeah.
the one guiding them and like
Like, it's like-
bringing them. Like you turned into
Well, sometimes I get like, I don't know if it's almost deja vu, but
Yeah.
it's like I'll be out with like a producer I manage that's like younger than me, right? Like that, let's say 10 years younger, because I'm actually like 32 now. So I like to surround myself with like young kids to kind of like stay relevant and like know what's going on.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
something again I learned
In
from
pop
Ivan, 'cause
culture,
that's
yeah.
what he was
Yeah,
doing with
yeah,
me,
yeah.
right? So it'll be weird because I'll be like out like eating pho and I'll be like having a conversation with someone or pho or whatever. it's
Fuck.
called.
Yeah, bro.
I say phone too.
Phone.
It's okay.
And yeah, so I'll be having a conversation and then I'll think like, wow, I had this conversation 10 years ago, but it was me on the other side.
Yeah,
of
like
it.
now you're like
It's full
initiating
circle.
it,
And
yeah.
I'm like using terms I learned from him to like teach these other
Mm-hmm.
But just to jump back into like how it got full circle with this studio.
Mm-hmm.
So after like we split ways, like with Jazz, like everyone was still like homies and shit. I felt like I had kind of accomplished what I wanted to do in a sense because like, you know, I said I got into the music industry to get a gold plaque. And then
And you did.
I
That-
got a
that gold plaque.
Yeah.
right? So I didn't know at that point like really where to go in life, and what happened was one of my childhood friends opened up a restaurant and his dad had passed away and he needed help with the business. And at the time I wasn't working at Universal anymore because the management thing actually became a conflict of interest because I'm like managing the artist and the A&R signing them, so it's like we're
Right.
writing a deal to ourselves.
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
both end of the paper.
Yeah.
So I kind of took the L of my job at Universal to do
The management.
the management thing, but I was frustrated there anyways because I was bringing them artists, and they passed on like big artists that were like that are like huge artists now that like I brought them in there, they talked with them, like whatever, you know. And it ended up working out where like they ended up being on the label, but at the time they like passed on it, right?
yeah,
Which
yeah.
showed me like I really
That's
like
annoying.
had like an
That
ear,
you had the
know?
talent too. Yeah.
Yeah, but they just didn't have the budgets, and they were trying to keep up with the internet and just whatever, like a lot of things. I felt very limited as to what I could do there, you know. And then so with the management company, it was like now I'm living like my dream, you know, like my best friend is the artist I'm managing. Like what could be better than that? And were going across the country, like opening up for like Post Malone or like stuff like that.
That's sick.
Like, doing like we sold out Rebel, which was like a big moment for me because I remember going there and watching The Weeknd perform there for the first time.
Yeah.
And then
to be a part of someone else.
Yeah. And when I was interning at Universal, they're like, yo, these guys are cool, but that should be you and your boys on that stage. And then fast forward 3 years later, Jazz did his show at Rebel. It was us on that stage. I was like, wow, like that moment actually
happened.
Came real. Yeah. So I had done a lot, and I kind of wanted, I was always interested in business. The music industry was very like shaky at the time because everything on the internet, like Spotify just came out. People didn't really know how to monetize and stuff yet, right? So my friend was opening up this bar, and I was working at another bar that another guy from a label that owned a label owned. And I just asked him, like, hey, bro, can I, like, bar back at your bar just to kind of get some extra money to, like, go on tour, right? So, because being on the road is, like, very, like, expensive.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, I didn't feel like my homie should have to take it all out of, like, his money. Like, so I was like, yo, like, I'll hustle, get my own money, and then I'll come on road with you, right? So, yeah, what ended up happening was I worked at the bar for like 2 years. We tried to open this bar. I was actually living above it. So I'd live above it. I'd come down and I'd like bartend there. And then the lifestyle just started to become like a lot because it was like I was working there 6 days a week, right?
Oh, so you're like drinking every night too?
4 p.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning.
Shit, yeah.
So I was like taking shots with like customers. I'd have like 10, 13 shots and be like, oh, I didn't drink.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then I'd go out to like the parties after because Toronto started
the after parties,
last call, and then after parties after the other parties, right? So it just became a lot, and then we got in some disputes. He ended up selling the restaurant, and when he sold the restaurant, it was like it happened very like quick, almost like an overnight thing, because like he lost his dad. He slipped and fell and like broke his ankle, so it was like very difficult for him to like manage it too. And then so he sold his restaurant, and I ended up losing my job and my house.
Oh, true,
on
because
the same day
because you lived above it.
Yeah. So I was like, yo, like what the fuck am I gonna do? Like I have no idea what to do. I ended up booking a trip to Mexico to like learn how to surf. It's just random. Random. But that's where I actually like I went there by myself, and like I lived there for like 2 months. I was trying to stay like longer, but I was there for 2 months. That's where I really like found myself, I find. And then when I came back, my friend Mills, who, remember I told you, he was like my best friend. While I was doing all this, he had opened up
his own studio,
right? He was like, yo, like I'm still doing this stuff with the studio. Things have gone like, you know, like they're way crazier than before. And even when I was like at Universal, like we were like renting out the studio to like their artists to use as like jam spaces and stuff like that, right? So I was like still sending him the little thing. But he came to me and he was like, yo, it's at the time, he's like, you're doing this restaurant shit. I don't know why the fuck you're doing this restaurant shit. You know, you've done so much in the music industry.
Yeah.
You know? He's like, help me with the studio. Like, I need your help, bro. And, like, I was like, yo, like, for sure. And so he picked me up. He brought me to the studio. I seen what was going on. And I was like, I just, like, seen, like, this crazy, like, vision. I was like, yo, like, we can actually, like, do this, you know? I seen what was going on, and I was like, there's a lot of work to be done, but I feel like with all my management skills, like, I could now use that experience towards this and really, like, you know, clean up what's kind of happening and brand it and market it. So that was actually at another location, right? So I started doing that with him.
Just continue.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So technical difficulties there. You know, I'm trying to run the equipment and be on the show at the same time. So
she's like doing both.
Yeah, so where were we? So yeah, my buddy Mills had came to me and he's like, "Yo, like you gotta see." And I, like we were still friends, but I hadn't seen his progress with the studio because like I seen the old place. But what happened was I got so like caught up in myself and just hustling and working, trying to get where I wanted to be, that I kind of like cut off a lot of relationships with people I grew up with because I thought they were only like holding me back. And this girl that was my friend at the time made me realize it. She's like, "Yo, like everyone you grew up with at Etobicoke, they're like bricks, and you're like a flower, like trying to like grow and
Bloom. Yeah.
but you're like around concrete and like all these like your friends just put you down and are haters." And it was a lot of people I'd known 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years that I was like, "Yo, what do you mean? Like, these are my friends. These are my boys, you know?"
Yeah.
But I had to realize, like, I had to cut off a lot of those relationships to really, like, excel. So I just naturally distanced myself from people because I was always out of the city, on road, with superstars, right? People got jealous and, like, envious of that, right?
Yeah.
So... yeah, so basically I didn't see all the progression with the studio, but then like when he brought me to the next place, I was like, "Yo, like this place really has potential. Like I could bring clients
Is
from
this place here?
Universal." No, this was the other one. And then yeah, so I brought in a partner. We kind of got that place like popping. And we got it to a point where it was like there's a lot of politics in Toronto rap music. I don't know if a lot of people, like, I guess if you're into rap, you know, but probably if you're not into rap, you don't even know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, me either.
Politics is like there's politics in everything, right? Like it doesn't matter if you work at McDonald's, but in rap music it's like talking more about like the beefs and like the violence and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
So like a lot of Toronto artists don't get along with a lot of other Toronto artists and like stuff like that. So it was the point where like we got this studio like popping, where all the guys that were popping in the city were like coming there. But then because it was so popping, it was starting to become an issue, like people like running into each other, and things like that didn't like get along necessarily.
Got it.
But the landlord was like, "Yo, like we're selling the building. You guys have to be out of here at the end of the month."
Oh shit.
And we were just like, "What the fuck? Like what are we gonna do?" But it was kind of a blessing, because all that at the level we had got the other place at, right? So we sat there for like a week on our phones just looking up like any other unit like that we could move the studio into. And we actually found this place that was an existing studio, and like we came here, seen the place right away, and we were like, "Yeah, like this is for sure the spot." So we moved in here like a year ago, and then
Oh, it was only a year ago?
Yeah.
Oh damn.
I didn't.
It was September, so a year and 3 months.
Damn.
But yeah, we took a little break. We went off the radar, so like we got rid of all the other like no one even. Some of these people don't even know we have a studio, so they might see this and be like, "These fucking guys, like they had a studio this whole time." Like, yeah.
Oh no.
So we took that opportunity. We moved locations. We became more low key. We got out of the whole Toronto rap industry because there was too much politics with
Got it.
And we started branding this place, and that's when we came up with like the name, the Cookhouse and stuff like that. So,
which is a sick name.
Yeah, it's still a work in progress, and I actually don't like calling it a recording studio because I feel like what we do here is more content creation.
Yeah, it's like a content house.
Yeah, that's my vision for it. And like where I'm at now is I'm laser focused in this. We also have like an amazing production team out of here. You know, shout out to Zepp, our engineer, Reddy, who's a crazy producer I manage, Mills, Johnny, Path, all the guys. So where we're at right now is we're kind of putting together like a production team.
A solid team. Yeah.
And then as well, I'm back into management because I actually have 2 artists I'm managing right now, which is with Shoebox Mentality. Shoebox Mentality is like a Toronto streetwear fashion company, but they're growing into like a record label.
Oh, nice.
And
Okay.
the guy behind it all is super driven, super positive. Like he's kind of become like a mentor of mine too now. He came to me because he's like, yo, you have so much experience in the music industry that I need you on my team because this is the industry I'm getting in now. So now, as well as the studio and managing the production side of things, I also am back into managing artists. So I have 2 artists I manage right now. Her name, one of them is Taylor, and then the other one is Mozzie, but they both haven't dropped yet. So you're not gonna be able to look them up like
Just
on YouTube or their music or anything.
But stay tuned because I bet you pretty
definitely
soon.
look out for them because
Damn.
when they drop, like they're going to go. Like I'm telling you, because I haven't jumped back into anything since jazz because I was waiting for the right.
So this is your first like dabbling back into it since getting that plaque.
Yeah.
Damn.
So you know it's gonna be good. You know it's gonna get you another plaque or 2 probably.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna have them like lined up.
It
on
needs
this
friends. It's so
Yeah.
lonely in the studio, you know. With one,
That's sick. I didn't even know that. That's sick. I'm excited to see them pop off.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, even with the production team that we're making right now, like that will bring in many plaques as well.
Yeah.
You know, like I know Mills is gonna get his plaque soon. Reddy's gonna get his plaque soon. You know, because these guys are very talented. So right now, like I'm just very grateful for the spot I'm in because I don't think any of this shit I went out and looked for. Everything came to me,
and it came, I feel like it also came because you like worked hard and you made a decision. Like this is what me and Fran talk about all the time too on the podcast. It's like just like making a decision that like you're genuinely passionate about and like committing to it, which you did. Like I said, even from when you were like a kid, like you weren't good at guitar, all that shit, but you still made the decision that like music and like the industry in general is what you wanted to do. So I feel like it didn't just come to you because like it came to you, but like you kind of manifested it. You know.
And if you just work hard at something like every day, like it's going to happen. Because every time you work at it, you only get better and better, right? That's why I tell a lot of these young producers too that just want to like kind of be like a poppin' producer overnight. It's like, bro, put in your 10,000 hours, you know? Like, there's so much work you have to put in before people are like, oh, he's an overnight success. People don't see that. 10
behind
years
the scenes,
grinding, working a day job for 8 hours, going to then pursuing your passion for another 8 hours of the day. You know? And so
that's interesting. I mean, that was a great story, and I think there's a lot of life lessons to learn throughout that whole story. And I think like especially what you just said is that like nothing's an overnight success, and as long as you put the hard work in, something is gonna come out of it. And like you said, the cream always rises to the top. That's what you said, right? So, and I think that like goes for everything, even with the podcast. Like sometimes we're kind of like, are we just like talking to microphones? But I think if we just keep doing what we're doing because we like to do it.
You know, we got like the studio too.
Yeah,
like,
we're learning from people like you and him as well, and like the whole studio. Like everyone's like it's sick. I never thought we'd be sitting here doing
something
this.
I just want to touch on really quick too. It's funny because you asked me like how I started producing, right? Which is actually like making beats and making music. But now that you've seen my story, like producing is like the smallest thing I do. When people come to this studio, they don't know what I do, right? And I'm like, they're like, oh, what does this guy do? He's just, you know, chilling around, whatever, right?
Just here.
Smoking blunts,
Just here, chilling here.
Like, you know. But I tell them, like, my job, what I concentrate on is everything but the music. Like, the music is your job, you know. I'm not gonna come into the booth and tell you how to write or how to rap. Like, that's what you're good at, you know. What I'm good at is telling you what you should do with the music. How to put it out, how to take your music and make that into a business. You know, how to get the money.
How to catapult it. Yeah,
that's what I do. And then because I'm just in the studio so much and managing artists, like I was there with Jazz and Lance is another guy I really look up to because he made a lot of Jazz's first songs. And when we were doing that, like I was in the studio with those guys like every day for like a year, probably working on making the album or mixtapes or whatever they call them now. And yeah, I was just like a fly on the wall, like observing, you know? So I had been around it so much that I didn't start making beats till recently, till like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Right.
And it's just something I picked up because I was in the studio so much.
Around it, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like, let me see. But I found out, like, I instantly kind of because I have an ear, like, I knew what part of the songs needed. All I really had to do was, like, teach myself. So, like, I spent a lot of time, like, while everyone else was, like, partying and going to clubs and going to, like, Lost and Found or whatever, I'd go to the studio instead because I'd partied so much. And
yeah, you're like been there, done that.
Like, yeah, like I'm not going to a party like
yeah
unless A, I'm with the artist, B, like we're going in the back door and like the owner's walking us in, and like C, like we're getting paid to be there. You know? Like I'm not, so that kind of has ruined like going out for me now.
Yeah, because you used to get paid to go out. Yeah.
So like I just go to the club. I'm like, what do you mean we gotta wait outside?
Yeah, you're like, I gotta wait in line.
I'm not doing this. You know, like what the fuck? Like, yeah. So instead of doing that shit, I just started going to the studio like by myself and just really zoning in. And I taught myself everything because there's so much information out there on YouTube. Yeah. And when I started making beats, I knew so many producers. No one would help me because no one cared. They were like, oh, what, now you're going to make beats after 10 years? Like, okay. Like, but then as soon as I took the time, I researched on YouTube. I watched all of like Internet Money was putting out a lot of tutorials. I watched their tutorials and I taught myself how to make beats. And then because I had an ear for it, like, I think they were actually like okay. Like I wouldn't say they were like fucking amazing or anything, but they were okay. And then I'd show other producers I know, and they'd be like, "Oh, yo, bro, this idea is sick," because they'd kind of have creative block, and then they would like help me with my beats, and then okay, now all of a sudden I have like good beats, right? Yeah. So yeah, it was just, and the production, that's something I just do as like a hobby. I don't even take it seriously. Like I only make beats that I really want to make, like music I'm currently like listening to, and it's like I don't even like showing people my beats. Like I really like.
That's just something that you yeah.
Yeah, I just do it kind of like for myself. Yeah. And because I was so involved in the business, like I found I had so much like built up emotion in me, and I was starting to become like a real like snapcase and stuff on people, where that kind of helped me be able to express myself. You know, is like a creative outlet that I never had. So that's more why I enjoy it than like trying to get, because I feel like I'll get another plaque again from managing more than I would from production. But some people will tell you otherwise. So
we'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to end off just like really quick rapid fire about some like juicy questions. So we want to know, who is the worst person that you have worked with? Okay. And who is the best person that like maybe like surprised you?
Don't say worst, maybe most difficult.
Most like, difficult. If you're allowed to say it. Like I don't want someone to like come over here and sue you.
Okay, so I'm not gonna make it too personal. Yeah. Because I've worked with a lot of difficult artists. So I'm not gonna make anything personal, but to answer it, I guess when I was working at Universal, like we were doing a lot of publicity for like international artists, right? So like setting up the interviews, taking them to interviews, and I'd have to be with them for like 2 days, right? So it could get difficult at times, like pleasing these A-list celebrities, right? Yeah. So most difficult person to work with by far, Machine Gun Kelly.
Listen,
like,
I think
we
he's
almost
like really
got
cute.
into a fight by the end of the three. Like I was with him for like 3-4 days, and
what the hell, Sam? Like I think he's cute.
I think he's cute, but like he does kind of look like a diva a little bit, low key. But
he was difficult to work with because he was like a spoiled brat. He was like bossing people around. Like he sent like the marketing manager at Universal. Like I'll never forget. He's like, yo, like, go get me a shawarma and shit. And the guy's like, yeah, sure, like, no problem. Like, went and did it. I'm like, wow, you're a little bitch, bro. Like,
MGK said, go get me a shawarma.
Yeah, no, other guy did it. And I'm like the intern at the time. I'm like, yo, I'd tell this guy to fuck off. And like the guy that's like, you know,
is running to get a shawarma.
The head of the marketing department is like running around to go get the guy a shawarma. I'm like, wow, like this is.
They'll literally do anything to keep him happy.
Yeah, and like I took Red Bulls from his fridge and he started complaining about them or something. And then like I got one of my boys to like go get him blunts or something, and then by the end of it I got so pissed off at him, like, fuck that, I'm taking these blunts. I'm not even gonna give them to him, you know? But yeah,
Funny.
he was kind of difficult to work with. Also, if you want to hear like a quick story, if we have time really quick, with Machine Gun Kelly, this is one of like my favorite music industry stories too. So I brought him to his first like weed dispensary, when like weed dispensaries were like not really like a thing. This was like 9 years ago. So I smoked him on his first like dab. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's like the wax or whatever. So long story short, like my friend's the promoter, so we pick him up from the airport. I'm doing the publicity, so we set up all the interviews, bring him to interview. First thing, he's like, yo, like, I want to go to the weed dispensary. I heard there's weed dispensaries here. And my buddy owns a weed dispensary. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, we'll go, right? So we pick him up from the airport, bring him to the weed dispensary. He smokes a dab. And he's like, oh, what is this? And the girl is like, oh, it's basically like the crack of weed, right? So we go to Much Music to do the interview. Right? And it's like a big interview. It's Much Music. So I used to intern at Much Music. So I know everyone at Much Music. He's signed to Universal and I'm interning at Universal. So all the people from Universal is there. So this is in front of like all my peers, right? This guy's like, what ended up happening was he smoked the dab. We were supposed to go out to like 2 parties that night.
So MGK smoked the dab?
Yeah.
Okay.
He ended up falling asleep and just like crashing in his hotel room. Like at 7 p.m., everyone's calling him all night. Like, yo, where are you? Where are you? He's like all greened out, right? So the next day when we go to Much Music and we go to do this interview, in front of all my peers, this guy goes and he like grabs my shoulder and like pats me on the shoulder. He's like, yo, bro. He's like, that crack we smoked last night was so crazy. And everyone's jaw just drops. They're like,
what the
Ricky Bobby, you smoke crack and you were with the artist smoking crack last night? I'm like, no, he's talking about weed. He's talking about weed. Like,
oh
and they were
my
like,
fucking god.
Fuck? Yeah. And so that was pretty funny.
That's actually so funny.
Yeah.
That's actually jokes.
And then,
interesting.
Best person I ever worked with by far was Young Jeezy. Young Jeezy was like, it was crazy because Young Jeezy is like known as one of the biggest like hood superstar, like drug dealer that made it into like a rapper, like down south kind of, you know, like hood. Yeah. And when I met him, we went to interview him. Back then I hated being on camera, so my boy Bunny Wisdom, who I also worked at Universal, who ran the street team, who I learned so much from as well. Like, I have to give him a shout out for sure. We went to interview him, so I was behind the camera. Bonnet was doing the interview, and he was just like, I was like, yo, like, you're one of my idols. Like, thank you so much for doing. He's like, bro, you ain't got to thank me. He's like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, dude. He's like, the fact I'm up here in Canada and you took the time out of your day to come ask me questions, that's insane to me. He's like, I'm just from the hood, you know? Like, I'm just a dude from the hood, you know? Like, I can't believe you wanted to, like, ask me some shit. I'm like, wow, this guy is, like,
that's nice.
So humble. And so, like, grateful for everything. And then I actually, like, back then, like I said, I was, like, hustling because I wasn't getting paid to work at Universal, right? And I had to support myself. So it's what I could do.
It is what it is,
So I had a scale on me. And he's known as, like, the snowman, like, the biggest, like, hustler, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, bro, can you sign something for me? And he's like,
You asked him
what?
to sign your scale.
Yeah, so I asked him to sign my scale.
dead.
I actually have it here.
Really?
I show some people, and they're like, no fucking way, you have a scale autographed by Young Jeezy. But
That's
yeah,
fucking jokes.
I do. So yeah, I'm like, yo, bro, like, can you sign this for me? And he looked at it, and he's like, yo, he's like, just don't get caught with my name on this shit.
He's like, don't show anyone.
And then he actually sat me down after the interview, and he's like, yo, bro, like, what you're doing, like, with all of this, he's like, think about it. All of that, the other stuff you're doing, is putting this at risk. You know? He's like, something could happen, one little slip up, all of this is over. And he's like, look, you're with me today. Like, that should show you you're on the right track.
Yeah.
You're doing something right. Like, you're getting to spend the day with one of your idols. You know? He's like, all that other shit is just gonna jeopardize everything you've worked hard for. And after that day, once he signed my scale, that was it. I never
used that scale.
Never used it again. Just stopped doing it. And then I was like, yo, all the energy I was spending in that shit, just
put it towards my work.
Damn.
It's interesting. He actually cares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was like by far the best. One I've.
So worst is MTK and best is Young Easy. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Well, thanks, Ricky, for coming on. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. What? No, go.
I was just gonna say, this is the last episode of season 2. So the next time we come back, it'll be season 3, and it'll be 2022. So
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to anybody watching or listening. And we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next year.
Bye.